All right, welcome into this episode of Farz Cast. Farzin, Vousoughian here with you. Hope you guys are doing well, having a good week. A lot of my listeners, of course, in the Midwest. Hope you guys are staying cool. Very, very hot weather. But nonetheless, I hope you guys are enjoying it. It's the summertime. Pandemic's winding down. So hopefully you guys are taking advantage of that. But also, I assume you guys are doing some things indoors as well, such as maybe watching television. My next guest I'm very excited to talk to. He and I have we've gotten to know each other for a while. We go back a bit. If you guys are watching the Facebook or the YouTube version, you probably recognize him. If you're a reality TV fan, he is one of the finalists from Big Brother 13. Very excited to talk to this guy, Adam Poch, here on the podcast. What's going on, man?
Hey, thank you so much for having me, man. Yeah, we definitely have had a long history. You've been doing these podcasts since as long as I've known you, which was probably right after season 13. So here we are 10 years later. It's still, for me, so surreal that I was on Big Brother. Like, I still don't believe I was on Big Brother.
Was Big Brother 13, was that 10 years ago?
10 years ago, 2011.
Dang. What is that whole thing like? Because you're getting ready to be gone for 2.5 months. Now it's 3 months, and even then they push it a little further. I just feel so sorry for these people. But what is that like, knowing you're going to be away from life for 2.5 months?
My story is I was a finalist for season 12, so I almost got on. And the month of June, after I came home from finals, like, I was nervous. Like, what's going to happen? And I got a call like mid-June saying, thanks, but no thanks. We like you, but just not for this season. And I said, all right, whatever. I started losing weight. I got into shape. I went back for finals for season 30, for semifinals. I didn't have to go to the open call. I went right to semifinals. And I showed them me a year later, dedicated and determined. Now, that doesn't mean the month of June wasn't stressful, waiting for the call. When I got the one call that said, you might want to start getting your affairs in order, I was like, oh, okay. That was around June 10th or 11th. They ended up taking me on June 26th. I must have gotten maybe 20 hours of sleep that entire time. Like, I was just, every second of the day, every second of the night, I'd lay in bed just thinking, holy shit, I'm getting on Big Brother. Holy shit, I'm playing Big Brother. How the hell am I going to win Big Brother? And just, like, no sleep at all. So when the day finally came that they took me and they got my key, I had about 2 hours before we had to leave for the airport, and I just laid down on the couch with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and we just laid down. It was so relaxing for those 2 hours. And then the next 81 days of my life were just mayhem. I mean, granted, everybody kind of knows what happened because we all lived through this pandemic. So there was like long stretches of time where you couldn't go out, you couldn't leave the house, you couldn't just but you had TV, you had your phone. Everybody says, oh yeah, you should be used to this. You did Big Brother. No, Big Brother, pandemic. I'll take Big Brother any day. I'll take the pandemic every day because I had TV and phone and everything. It was a very stressful time before the show. Again, because I was lying to people. I was lying to everybody. Like, only certain people knew what was going on, and they all had to sign the waivers. I had to get my company. My company actually refused to sign. I worked for Sony Music. They refused to sign, but I had to sign something of theirs to say that I would not mention that I worked for Sony Music.
I remember you told me that.
Yeah, because if anything bad happened, they did not want it to be a reflection on them. Granted, this was 10 years ago, and the internet was working pretty well, and people could figure it out pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
But the best is, okay, if you have some older listeners, they'll get this joke. So at the bottom of the screen on Big Brother, they'd say your occupation, and mine said music inventory manager. I run the physical inventory department for a division of Sony Music. But people are like, he's a stock boy at Sam Goody. He works at Music
Sam
Land.
Goody.
Yeah, exactly. So people like, were dismissing me as just some like, guy that like stock shelves. I'm like, no, dude, like I'm in charge of some pretty important shit here. But yeah, no, it was a fun time, but I can't believe it's been 10 years.
You mentioned a lot of things we can kind of just go off, but I kind of want to start in the beginning when you talked about, not being able to make it for 12. By the way, here's what's funny with my big brother. You and I chatted before we started recording. Big Brother 14 was my first season, but the first reality show I got into was Amazing Race. And the YouTube celebrity Kev Jumba?
No.
Okay, well, he used to be like 10, 15 years ago. There used to be only like 10, 11, 12 like actual YouTube celebrities. Now there are like hundreds and thousands.
Right.
But one of them was Kev Jumba. And I remember in the high school, when you're in high school, you watch these kinds of things. So he got me hooked into Amazing Race. And I did watch his season 17. And the previous season was 16. And Jeff and Jordan were on there. They were Team Big Brother, but I had no idea who they were. So I didn't really care. And I remember just flipping through channels one day, and I remember seeing Jeff and Jordan, and I saw Dom in his confessional saying, man, us new schoolers, we got to get out the old schoolers. And I'm like, oh, that's Jeff and Jordan from Amazing Race, when they're actually from Big Brother.
Right.
And then several years later, I actually started watching, past seasons of Big Brother. I'm like, I do remember seeing that, just flipping through channels. So
yeah.
But I did want to ask you, because you mentioned your story for season 12 and all. I know Dan Giesling has a pretty well-known story that he got in several times and failed. And I think Mike Boogie mentioned in another interview that he had an agent, and you keep in mind the timing of this. He had his agent convince them to put his VHS tape on the top of all these applications. So it's always interesting hearing all these different stories and all these people who have been memorable like yourself and not be able to make it or have to go through it so many times before they can finally get on.
Right. I've become really good friends with people from other seasons, and Matt Hoffman from season 12 and I have become really good friends. He was actually picked for season 11. He was going to take the spot of Ronnie. However, his wedding was planned that year, and his wedding was before the season would have ended. So unless he made it out pre-jury, so he canceled Big Brother to get married. Then you have people like Frank Udy, who was on season 14, and then he came back for season 18. He was a alternate for season 13. In fact, he was a finalist. I saw him every day during finals. Like, we couldn't talk to each other, but he had big red hair, like carrot top. It was hard to miss him, but he was actually like in the holding cells before the season started, as if he might be coming in case somebody dropped out before the season started. But then he eventually got on for 14 and then did really well, and came back for 18. So yeah, everybody, and then you have other people that like the first time they don't even know the show. They answer an online Facebook thing that says, hey, are you outgoing? And next thing you know, they're week one, trying to flip the house. It's pretty good. Although I do have to say, as a super fan, and the more and more super fans that get on, like, we understand that it's a long game, so we play slow. The best thing are the recruits, the people that don't know the show, because I've never watched it before. And again, if you went through the casting process once, you've watched enough episodes. If you don't know anything about the show and you go in there, you just think the game is like fast, all guns blazing all the time, because you watch those 40-minute episodes 20 in a row. You don't realize that those 20-minute those 20 episodes take place over the course of 3 months. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And look, I know Big Brother. I mean, CBS has had some pretty good notable shows. I mean, Big Brother, Amazing Race, Survivor. And you and I were talking about other reality shows like Real World, Road Rules, The Challenge, The Bachelor. I mean, you have so many reality shows nowadays. Have you connected with people from other shows outside of Big Brother that you keep in touch with on a consistent basis now?
Yeah, one of the things, being that I was the bacon guy and then I was the metal guy. Anytime there's a food guy on any of the other shows, or anytime there's a metalhead on any of the shows, we kind of all gravitate together. Matt Bischoff from Survivor, the guy with the really long dread beard.
Yeah.
Him and I have become friends. From Amazing Race, Mark Abatista, Team Long Hair. Him and I forget, drawing a blank on his teammate now, but Mark actually used to manage a band that I worked for 20 years before. And when he showed up on Amazing Race, I'm looking at that name, and I was calling around to all the people I worked with back then. I'm like, do you remember that name? Like, who was he? And then we figured out who he was. So him and I have reconnected years and years later. But again, like with the food stuff, especially in the New York area, a lot of Top Chef or Hell's Kitchen contestants are in town, and I've become friends with a bunch of them. Master Chef, one of my good friends, Derek Prince from he was on Master Chef the same summer I was on Big Brother, so we have mutual friends who knew us both. We didn't know each other at the time, so they had to spend their entire summer watching Big Brother and Hell's Kitchen and Master Chef. But we became friends. We started judging food events together. So it's being a reality. I don't really want to say a reality star. Being a reality contestant has definitely opened doors to get me into other people's worlds, and collaborate and have fun. Like I said, I judge food events. Like if I wasn't on Big Brother, I'd be paying to go to the food events. Now I judge them. And from there, I get to meet, other chefs, and I get to meet, people that produce TV shows, and so it's pretty wild the amount of doors that it's opened. At the same time, I'm still humble as hell. I still hang out with my friends, and I'm not I knew reality TV wasn't going to make me famous, but there's so many other people that still think that reality TV is going to make them famous.
No, I know. Yeah.
And with the advent of social media influencers,
yeah.
But is there a pension plan for that? Like, what happens when you're 65? Like, I was an influencer, and okay, you get 50 cents off of your prescription this week.
Look, here's the thing. I don't have a lot of followers. I have 3,000 some on Twitter, and I have 26,000 on Facebook. Here's the thing. Everyone loves to have followers, but then it's when you, and we won't dive too specific into this, but if you give your opinion on politics, everyone takes politics very seriously today, very personally, I should say. If odds are half of your followers have a very passionate stance against what you just said. So, if you want all these followers, be ready, because it does come with a territory. And look, I've got thick skin. If someone, decides to be shitty about what I have to say, I just block them. It's not worth putting up with. But there are some people who are like, oh, I want all these followers. Until you get them, you don't know what you're really asking for.
Well, it's funny is because I was such a fanboy, and I understand the obsession. I actually try to talk to the haters. There's definitely some that I've gotten through to. Others I just have fun with. It's like just watching them, their blood boil as I see those dots, when they're trying to reply to me. So I'll start following somebody on Twitter just so I can direct message them, and say, again, 10 years later, I still get people tweeting me how shitty I played the game. I'm like, okay, I came in third place, whatever, it was shitty. Got it.
They would gladly trade. Two things. I don't mean to cut you off, but first of all, they would trade places with you. Second of all, they're not going to say it to your face. They just
exactly. So instead, I take the conversation to them, And like I said, there's been some of them that I've come around, and some people that I block.
Yeah.
Like this was fun for a few minutes, but block. No, but I'm not going to say anything bad about if you can make a career, you can make a living, posting on Instagram, go for it, do it. Like if that makes you happy and it's working for you, do it. Who am I to say that that's the wrong way to do it? I do it my way, you do it your way, and that's how we survive as a society. But not going to get too philosophical on you.
What's interesting is I mentioned New Big Brother 14 was the first season that I watched, and I've gone back and watched most of the seasons in the past. I think Twitter's been around way before Big Brother 14, but it didn't pick up until that time, 2011, 2012. And in 2012, you started seeing hashtags for Big Brother, and they've gotten creative with it over the seasons. But the point I'm trying to get at is, maybe it is kind of a good thing that you played pretty much the end before the social media era of Big Brother, because 2 seasons after yours, my God, man, just the things that people said on there, which is labeled as the racist season.
Right. Yeah, 15 definitely, had that, and 15 let it be known for the community to come out against what people were saying.
Yeah.
So it gave, and there is a section of Big Brother fans that are, just obsessively nasty. So this gave them people to hate. And again, as a fan of the show, I always say the only thing better than rooting for the people you want to win is rooting against the people you want to lose. But your point about the social media blow up. So yeah, 15 was big in a negative way, but I seriously call Big Brother season 16 the Grande factor. As soon as when Frankie Grande was on season 16, that just created a whole nother level of just because people were being exposed to such a wide audience. And when they got off that season, there was such a wide audience online of just, people that were just following. Again, it's like any other thing, all the Ariana Grande fans that started watching Big Brother because of Frankie, that became obsessed and became hooked on the show. There's always going to be that section of people. So, but I feel like that really took the social media aspect to the next level. I think after that, you had people that were thinking, okay, I can go on Big Brother and get 100,000 Instagram followers the next day.
Well, and look, I know I'm asking the question to the wrong guy. I don't expect you to know this, but I'm glad you mentioned that because Donnie won America's Favorite that year, and I'm glad. That's who I was rooting for all year long. But Frankie wasn't even in the top 3. For a guy who was related to a huge pop singer, I mean, how did he not? What happened with that? Everyone thought he was going to win?
I think there was a large section of Ariana Grande fans that started watching the show and were like, "This is stupid," and tuned out.
Okay.
Tuned out. So I and plus, Donnie was pretty loved.
Right? No, that's true.
I mean, Donnie was just the epitome. You couldn't hate the guy. You could not. There was nobody oh, this guy is just the worst player ever. No, he was just the silly guy making bird noises in the backyard. But America's player with not America's player, but Team America.
Yeah.
Doing the tasks and being funny about it. And then of course, getting steamrolled by the other side, he had the sympathy vote, but no, that is good. I think if it was America's player week 1, you definitely would have seen Frankie win it.
That's crazy, man. By the way, going back to what we were talking about with, the racism and all that. We have seen, and it's not just racism. I mean, there have been a lot of things that have been said. I know Spencer from season 15, he made some comments about, he was making jokes about raping children, and that was a very serious issue. I know he was under investigation for a while. A couple of years ago, the season that Mickey won, it was his name Jack or Jackson?
Jackson.
because there was also a Jack that season.
Right.
There were also a lot of contestants that year who said a lot of things, and we normally never saw this, but Julie Chen just like called these people out and even had like a video clip ready for that kind of thing. And then I think last year really rubbed people the wrong way, which shocked me because that was an all-star season. These are people who know how social media reacts to things. And look, people were making racist comments, talking about Ian's autism. And I think one of the players, Memphis, who I was excited to see, but I was so disappointed by some of his comments, he was getting some horrible restaurant reviews on Yelp, on Google, because of his comments. What do you make of these contestants? Like, I mean, Big Brother at this point, they have to be telling these people, hey, look, shit will hit the fan with you in your personal life if you are not careful with what you say.
All right. Well, the first thing I need to address, because I'm good friends with Spencer, and what Spencer did was very bad. It was. I'm not excusing his behavior, but he basically grabbed McCrae's microphone and set it into McCrae's microphone, because then it would be recorded as McCrae saying these things. Like, granted, stupid, like moronic, idiotic. There was no like ill content with what he was saying or doing. At the same time, yes, like people afterwards, like, you're being watched 24/7. Like, and I was very careful with what I did. I was very careful with what I said. And again, like, it is a changing of America over the last, couple of years, especially the last, year. So yeah, so for the fans that are going on and like ruining their lives because of what they said on TV, that's the culture we're in now. That's the way it is. And if you don't know that just in regular life, so again, like, I'm sitting here, I'm supporting my friend Spencer, not what he did, but I'm supporting him because he made a bad decision and he knew it. But then, like, with people that should be held more accountable for knowing better, like, there's no excuse for that. But at the same time, to just ruin someone's life or try to ruin their life by doing the negative reviews and stuff, like, there's better ways of getting your voice across than, you don't throw negativity at negativity, because nobody wins there. And again, I don't want to get too deep or philosophical or anything like that, but yeah, Big Brother contestants should know better, that they're on 24/7. And if they're not telling them before they go in, you better know that, or else you have a real rude life, lesson that you're going to learn when you come out those doors.
Well, I mean, social media, it's definitely, I mean, there have been some crazy things on there, and I can't remember what season of Survivor this was. I'm talking like either seasons 1 or 2. There was a female contestant. I think she had an affair with someone. She had some weird affair with someone that really ruined relationships within her family. I don't know if that even helps as to who I'm talking about, but I mean,
there was Big Brother 1, I believe that there was a woman that was cheating on her husband, and that came out during the.
I haven't seen Big Brother 1, so I didn't know that. Well, my point is, like, this was pre-social media, and right. I guess this person received a lot of hate mail. Like we're talking emails here, not tweets or Facebook messages. Like, even before social media, like Facebook and Twitter, people have found ways to, attack these people for their personal lives.
No, I mean, it's funny when you get out of Big Brother that night, they hand you like all the fan mail. So like, people were writing letters, and people still, I'm sure, write letters. My pile wasn't that big, but it was pretty awesome to, when you get letters from kids. But
wait, production is handing you letters that they've received?
After the show ends, like before.
Oh wow! I didn't know you could do that.
Well, no. Oh wow! You're gonna start writing to contestants?
I don't have that much time on my hands.
Start sending fan mail. No, I mean, now I think that's probably over anyway, because people will just wait till they get out and yell at them on Twitter, or yell at them on Instagram, or. whatever. But no, it was very humbling getting letters from people that were watching, because again, they took their time to write a letter. Pretty cool. But yeah, no, it definitely is a new world with, the fact that people can just say whatever they want to say and direct it to whoever they want to direct it to, and maybe get through.
I did want to ask about that whole thing with, being very careful with what you said. Ian Terry made a comment on Rob Cesternino's podcast. And by the way, I don't listen to a lot of the reality TV podcasts, but I listen to Cesternino and Evil Dick. And I know you're a frequent guest on both of them. And I love your commentary on those two shows. And I know you do something with Sirius XM, which I want to get into a little later. But Ian mentioned something that, because he played with 4 returning players, and I think Boogie or Dan or somebody said, hey guys, we've got the live feeds on, be very careful with what you're saying. Did any of the returning players on your season have to remind you guys, hey, just be careful, we're live right now?
So if you another person that I've become friends with after the show, better than even on the show, was Brendan, of Brenchel fame. Brendan, between seasons 12 and 13, may have been caught with his pants down, literally, on the internet. Again, this wasn't like during the show. This was after the show. So the fact that you had somebody who was just like, again, as a Big Brother fan, you knew that the drama. So it's like seeing him as a reminder, like everything's being watched. You're being watched at every moment. Like doesn't matter. So to the point where, like, even after I got out of the house, I started thinking back to like my time before I went into the house, and I'm like, I wonder if they had cameras in that hotel room. Like, like so you start getting that, and it took a little while, like, after you get out of the house, like realize that you're not being watched anymore. But no, again, it's the maturity level. It's people that just know to, like, be careful. Other people are just, you do sometimes forget that the cameras are there. Like
I've heard that.
You get caught up in life, but again, being, at the time I was 40 years old, I was a 40-year-old male who looks like this. Like I have no room for error. Like I have to be on my on game the whole time, because I'm just people are just looking for an excuse to be like, oh, creepy old guy or whatever. So yeah, I was always like, I practiced before I went on getting changed with a towel wrapped around me. But
I have seen screenshots from like other contestants. Yeah, right. People upload that.
And then Evil Dick did show us. He's like, when you're if you want to, change your underwear, stand in the corner right underneath a camera, because then they could only get your back. They can't get your front. If you're standing under a camera with your back, with your facing a wall, they can't get your front. And again, like, whoever wants to look at my, like he would say, whoever wants to look at my ass, look at my ass. But yeah, no, we didn't have the constant reminders like vocally. We just had the constant reminders visually.
Yeah. Evil Dick's hilarious, man. I think he's got the best reality podcast, and I always like it when you go on there, because you guys obviously, I mean, he was on it briefly because of his personal matter, but I mean, he's just really. It was just so disappointing when his time got cut short in 13. Like, we missed out on a really good season with him.
Yes, being a huge fan of his, and being like, he was the reason why I said, you know what, maybe I can get on the show, because you do have an older metalhead dude. So again, getting to play with him was the first second awesome, and then, oh shit, I'm playing against one of the best ever. But yeah, so the good thing about Dick is he says whatever's on his mind. The bad thing about Dick is he says whatever's on his mind. So the good thing about his show is when you go on the show, you could say whatever's on your mind.
Yeah.
And again, in such a PC culture, like, not everything that you say bad is bad, if that makes sense. Like, you could have differences of opinions as long as you express them in a thoughtful, way. And that's what Dick does. And again, he comes off very brash. That's
Yes.
his opinion. You don't like it, don't listen to it. And again, and I get that there's part of the culture that does not want there to be people like that, but that you need to have the dichotomy. You need to have the two sides.
Yeah.
Again, you base people on their actions, not their words, and not solely on their words. But again, the hate speech or whatever, we can go down that road any day, all day. But no, you know what I'm saying. Like it's good to be able to express your opinion and not feel ashamed to have an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Dick's a really cool guy. Like I said, I think his podcast is the best. He does charge for his, but it doesn't break your bank, and I think it's worth it. I actually got to do a Survivor podcast. So for like the finale, he always invites like a couple of fans who frequently send in video mailbags, and I got to do like a Survivor. It was actually Winners at War. We got to talk about, so that was a lot of fun. By the way, I have to ask you this. I don't know if you ever addressed it, and if you did, I never saw it. But when Big Brother All Stars was happening last year, you did something on your Twitter where you changed it to Adam Poch, Big Brother 13 and 22, and people were like, "Oh shit, he's going on." What the hell was that about?
Nah, come on. Just the rumors were flying. Everybody was talking. I'm more upset though because like there were people I definitely heard from people who I hadn't heard from in a while just to like say what's up. So that people were snooping around. But like I was just waiting for my name to end up on one of the rumors lists, and I never saw it. But no, I was just having fun, with the fans, because again, like for my friends that saw that, they're like, "Oh shit, another summer that we got to watch his ass on TV." So it was like to break their balls, and then of course like the obsessed fans that were like, "Is he really going on? Is he really going on? No, he's not going on. Is he really going on?" So yeah, that was just for shits and giggles.
Was it weird last summer? Like, I mean, let's just say, I don't know who you're friends with from last season, but let's just say Nicole, for instance. Was she like, "Hey, you want to be in an alliance?" And you're like, "Nicole, I'm just calling to say hi. I'm not really going on the show." Was there like a lot of that going on, even with the people who weren't returning?
Okay, so the people from last year that I'm tightest with, Enzo's my boy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We're tight. Nicole, Long Island Nicole.
Oh, okay.
I still have not got to meet her. I was supposed to meet her right after her season. And Ian, I'm still pretty tight with. I met Ian like right after he got out of the season. We were in Vegas together. We hit it off. So it was funny because I was talking to Enzo and to Ian, and neither one of them said anything to me. And then like when Enzo started appearing on some lists, I'm like, "Bro," I'm like, "What's up?" And he's like, "Oh no, they can't even spell my name right." And I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, but Ian, I was pretty convinced Ian was in, just because he was acting a little squirrely, and even for him. There was definitely, from what I heard, like there were calls going around, and like Nicole A was like, she was getting calls from people, and she was like refusing to take them because she was afraid that there was a trap to get her, and they were like, "Oh nope, you're not on now because you spilled the beans." Meanwhile, you have like Zoom meetings with people like going over their alliance from day one, but and you definitely saw that hurt the game, although it did make for a great finish.
Yeah, Nicole was interesting because she made a lot of videos that I guess her friend uploaded of her saying, "Oh, hope you guys are excited for the season." And people were like, "You made a bunch of videos just to like throw smoke screens and all that." So I mean, hey, creative on her end. So that was pretty cool. I did want to ask you, because you and I were chatting before we recorded. You mentioned today was your daughter's last day of kindergarten, and the last time you and I spoke, your wife was pregnant with your daughter. So I mean, it's crazy, how much time has passed since we last have done something like this. But I was listening to, I don't know if you know who Susie Meister is. She did 2 seasons of Road Rules, which I've never seen because it's not on Paramount Plus, and she's done a couple of seasons of The Challenge. She's considered one of the best female contestants of all time on there. But I was just curious about her backstory, and I came across her podcast recently, and she mentioned that if her kid ever wanted to do reality TV, she would discourage it. If your kid ever wanted to be on reality TV, I mean, are you gonna support her? Say no?
She's almost 6. If she wants to go on Toddlers and Tiaras, hell no. If she's 18, 19, 20, 21, she wants to go and on Big Brother Survivor, if they're still on, or whatever show, I'm all for it. If she wants to go like on specifically a dating show, I think I'd have some hesitations. Again, being a father of a daughter.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? Like, I lived my dream, and I came out the other side better. And I feel like, if that's her dream and she wants to do it, I support it, as long as it's not going on a dating show.
I mentioned The Challenge, and I know you said you haven't seen it. For those who've never seen The Challenge, it started off with just Real World and Road Rules, and I've only seen 1 season of Real World. It was Wes Bergman. He's from Kansas City, which is where I live. So I figured, hey, why not check out his season? Real World was the first reality show, and it was in 1992, and I was just only a year old when that came out.
Great. I was in college. Thanks.
I actually do want to actually see the first season just to see what it was like. And I know they did a reunion recently on Paramount Plus. Were you into Real World?
I was so into Real World. The first like 3-4 seasons, I was obsessed with it. Season 3, Poch, who I feel is like he's one of the original like bad boy villains of reality. I was all in. I think up until the first time they were in Seattle, because I remember when I went to Seattle in 1998 into 99, and I specifically went to all the spots that they were at on the show, because
okay,
again, and at that time I was 28 years old, and here I am oh, there's the pier that they lived at, and oh, here's the restaurant that this was on. And now that I think about it, I also remember watching Hawaii, so that was probably a little bit later too. But no, you know what? That's why I loved Big Brother so much, as far as a game I could play, because I was a big fan of Real World. I was a big fan of Survivor. I used to go camping when I was a Boy Scout when I was a kid. There's no way I can live on a beach for 39 days, living in a tree, eating rice. Fuck that. No.
Well,
so Big Brother took those two and put it together.
Well, what's crazy is Survivor Australia is 50 some days. And then Survivor, you and I were chatting about this before we recorded. There's a guy on The Challenge who's a 2-time Survivor winner from Survivor Turkey. And I was looking up his Wikipedia and his season's Wikipedia, and it said day 158. I'm like, 158? How are you not dead? Unless they're feeding them consistently. That's a different kind of Survivor.
Are you sure it wasn't his 158th day of playing the game? There can't be a season of 158 days.
Hold on, let me Google this. Insane. Okay. How many days is Survivor Turkey?
Meanwhile, we're talking about Kansas City, and on cue, Odor just hit a 2-run home run, and the Yankees are now beating the Royals 4-3.
Are you a Yankees guy?
Oh yeah.
Okay, gotcha. By the way, out of curiosity, do you watch hockey, or are you an Islanders fan?
I'm a Devils fan. And,
okay.
We haven't. So actually, here's a funny story. While you're looking that up, one of the doors that opened to me. So because I was a Devils fan, and on Big Brother, there's some other Devils fans that season tickets and that hooked up with me and started like giving me free tickets to hockey games. And so for the 1990, the 2011-12 season, when the Devils made the Cup, I was going to a shit ton of games. I had to pay for my own Cup tickets, but a fan got me tickets for the Cup and was like, "Hey, I got you 2 tickets," and I was like, "Yes." But I had to still pay for the tickets, but the fact that like fans of the Devils were hooking me up, it was pretty awesome.
Well, actually, I'm really glad you said this because I completely forgot about this. You were on Fox Sports 1 a couple months the season after the Royals won the World Series. And Katie, what's her last name?
I forget.
Okay, well, she used to be on Fox Sports and she made a big name for herself. I think she moved to ESPN now, but she was promoting these sneakers and she was like, "All right, we're going to give away a pair of sneakers to whoever can tell us who won the World Series." And she's going up to everyone, "Who won the World Series?" And only like one person knew it was the Royals. She walked up to you and you went, "New York Mets lost." How did that opportunity come up?
Because I'm a Yankees fan, and like I didn't remember who beat the Mets. I just remember the Mets. Like, to me, it was like it could have been anybody as long as the Mets lost the World Series. That made me so happy. So, but when she goes to like, "Who won the World Series?" I'm like, "The Mets lost," because that's the way I was rooting against the Mets that series. My brother was a huge Mets fan, so we always had that rivalry, Yankees versus Mets.
I am still looking up this Survivor thing for whatever reason. Like on my iPhone, it showed the days, but on my laptop, it's not. I really am curious. Like, I want the answer to this.
So I'll give another cool story while you're looking that up. So
Okay.
Another sports thing was being the Big Brother person and also being a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. I tweeted from the game, the Cowboys versus the Giants, because I live like 10 minutes away from the stadium. So I go to every time the Cowboys play at the stadium against the Giants and the Jets. So I tweeted a picture of me wearing a Cowboys jersey, and the lady that runs the social media for Petty Jean Meats in Arkansas, the official bacon of the Dallas Cowboys, was following me and said, "Oh my God, you're a Cowboys fan? Hey, here's some free bacon. Hey, you want to come to Arkansas and eat some bacon?" Sure. So they flew me down to Arkansas twice to they were doing like some bacon festival, and so they had me as one of the guest judges. And one of the years there, not only did I get to eat a ton of bacon, but it was also the World Squirrel Cook-Off.
Yeah.
As somebody from the Midwest, you know that squirrel's good eating, right?
There's a guy who introduced me to cooked rabbit, and at first you're like, "What?" It's actually pretty good. Yeah, it's funny the things you come across in the Midwest that you try and eat. Okay, so on my iPhone it shows like when they finish. So the first person voted out was voted out day 10. So it's not like USA's version where it's every 3 days, but yeah, man, it does say. So Turbo, he lasted 115 days his first time, and then he came back a year later, won an All-Star version that was 134 days. So unless they're feeding these people like every other day, I mean, how do you not die?
Or they're stocking the fish in the ocean for them. Like,
I guess, I don't know. I'm actually really curious to look into that more.
So I did 75 days in the house, 6 days in like a hotel before going in the house, 81 days. I know the longest season of Big Brother, I believe, was 99 days. Like, to add like another month and a half, almost 2 months to that, like, that's insane.
Well, hold on. Isn't the real world 4 months?
It could be.
I've heard that. I'm like, why?
Yeah, but they have jobs and they have, like.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Oh, on the real world, like sometimes like they're forced to do a job, but
oh, like that task thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So they get paid for that.
I see. I don't know those contracts.
Okay.
I don't
Fair
know
enough.
if they're contractually obligated to do that, or if that's part of their stipend or per diem or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, no, I don't count other people's money. Awesome.
No, understandable. Couple things before I let you go. I mentioned Sirius XM. I did not know this. Last year was the first year I discovered this. I listened to a couple episodes. By the way, I love Sirius XM. So many great channels on there and a lot of great podcasts as well. You are one of the hosts for a Big Brother podcast on there. How long have you been doing that for?
All right. So Big Brothers, which is the child of Vito and Chris Stanley from the Bennington show. They're huge Big Brother fans. So they started doing a podcast, I believe, around season 17. And during season 18, Chris Stanley had to miss a week. So I called into Bennington show a few times. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
And so I got to talk to him a few times. I also did some other shows with people that are affiliated with the Bennington show. So Ron Bennington told Vito, hey, why don't you give Adam a call? He lives nearby. Like, ask him to co-host, to fill in. And it went over really well. I also still write my blog for Big Brother Network, where every week I give the players bacon if they're good, tofu if they're bad. So Vito and Chris started introducing, I would give the recap of the week I would give them who got 5 strips of bacon, who was a surprise, last week was 2 strips of tofu, this week 2 strips of bacon, and who the tofurkey of the week was. So I would call in every week and just give that little bit. And then we're like, hey, let's try the Beastie Boys have the 3-man weave. And yeah, we started doing it, I believe full time. I was season 20, 21, and 22. So yeah, so nice. three full seasons now. The last season, because Sirius XM just started their podcast and their app, so they're trying to get more content for it.
Yes.
We were being broadcast on another platform before that, so we were one of the first podcasts that was made just for Sirius XM.
Okay.
They had just kicked it off. So we got on there, and then even they started playing the replay of our show at 5 a.m. on Monday mornings on Raw Dog 99, which is 2 a.m. West Coast. But again, if you know Big Brother timeline, so we would record either Thursday night or Friday morning. So we talk about the week to come. By Sunday, by Monday morning, you already know who won veto, who was nominated, who the target is. So people but again, if you were just watching the TV show, you didn't know all this. So, so fans that will go on and listen on the radio, they'd be like, well, this has already all happened, or you guys were way off. So I urge everybody to get the Sirius XM app. If you have Sirius XM for your car, you get the app for free. Just download it. And you just look up Big Brothers, and we're talking about doing a kickoff show next week. Hopefully by then the cast will be announced, because we're 2 weeks away from going live. 2 weeks from tonight is opening night. So and as soon as the cast is announced, I'll be doing my preseason bacon tofu rankings on Big Brother Network. And then speaking of the Midwest, I will be in Iowa, in Des Moines, Iowa, August 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, whatever that week is. There's my friend's opening a restaurant at the Iowa State Fairgrounds, and he runs the biggest bacon festival in the world, the Blue Ribbon Bacon Festival. So I've been out there a few times working with him. So, nice. So me, Matt Hoffman, Enzo, maybe McCrae, Keith from season 13, Whistlenut from season 17 or 18, the one with Kevin. 18. Yeah, Jason Whistlenut.
I know who you're talking
19, about. Sorry, they were 19. We're trying to put together a little viewing party in Iowa for Big Brother. It's a Thursday night, August 12th. Thursday, August 12th, Iowa. We don't know where, but we're going out there to party, and we figure we got enough Big Brother people. We can just take over a bar somewhere and watch Big Brother with the fans. Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, I'm a fanboy. Like I love Big Brother. I'm so excited that the new season's coming. However, I watch so much Big Brother during the quarantine. Like usually at this time every year, I go back and watch my season, just to see maybe I win this time. But like I said, like at the start of the show, like it's still so surreal that I was even on the show. So like
That's
when
awesome.
when I watch the new season and I see people walk through that door, I'm getting chills thinking about it. Like that takes me back to that moment when I walk through those doors. Like when I see somebody else walking into my house, it's like, and then as after that moment, like the 5 seconds of the premiere night, then I go back to, I can't believe I was on the show. Like,
Yeah.
but like for those 5 seconds of the opening night, man, like like I'm there. I'm in that house. I'm in that house. I'm like, it all comes back to me and then goes right out.
I did want to ask you one more thing before I let you go. I know you and Evil Dick, when this happened, you guys spent a lot of time talking about this than the actual show. And I'm referring to the whole Les Moonves situation. And the reason I bring this up is because it really rubs me the wrong, because look, I, like a lot of people, I have a very, very strong stance against what he was accused of. And I mean, I imagine, I think they're still investigating, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess there's some truth to what he did and what he was accused of, but it really rubs me the wrong way with Julie Chen's new and her Julie Chen Moonves. And I guess I have a bigger issue with it because she had a lot of words for Camille Cosby. And I'm not saying she was wrong to have those opinions, but it's like what she said, for those who don't know, she said, if I was Bill Cosby's husband, I would have left him. Well, now she is literally in that spot. And instead of leaving him, she's actually using his name on CBS. I'm surprised CBS has not done anything about that.
Uh, Contracts and stuff and legal and obviously there's a lot more to the story than what the public knows, especially with high profile people like him, and how the leaks happened to get him. Like there's stories about like who blew the whistle on him.
Yeah.
Granted, there's something to be said, stand by your man. I mean, Hillary Clinton stood by her man. It was obvious he was cheating on her, and she almost became president. So it's it's there's something to be said about supporting your man. It's also she's the fact that she's kind of rubbing it in their faces with
yes.
The Moonves.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially last year, we saw her start going off script a little bit more, which made Chen Bot not as body. So I have a feeling that like this is like there's a lot more brewing behind the scenes. Again, when there's that many accusations against you, chances are there's something there. At the same time, is it a witch hunt? Is it like blown out of proportion to like make him look bad? And then so Herb doing it right back at them. Again, we'll find out when behind the story comes out in a few years.
Yeah.
But once everybody's off contract, we might find out as true of a story as we're gonna get.
One last thing. By the way, do you have a couple more minutes left? This is the one thing I really wanted to ask.
2 minutes. I'll give you 2 minute warning.
Okay. I remember Evil Dick shared a funny story about how he got out of the house and I guess Singular changed to AT&T and he had to figure all of that out. When you left Big Brother, was there like a story in the news that you heard and you were like, holy shit, like this happened?
All right. So like, I'm a bit of a morbid person sometimes. So, but I'm a realist. So while we were in the house, I was like, I wonder what celebrities died. And I was like going through like what celebrities died, because celebrities die all the time.
Yeah.
So, and people have death pools. So it's not like I'm the first person to ever do this. And again, like granted, we were talking before about like what you say on the internet. Like I wasn't wishing anybody dead. I was just you get bored sometimes, and so I said, apparently I don't even remember saying it, but somebody came up to me like, dude, did they tell you Amy Winehouse died? And I was like, no, why? Like, oh, because like 2 days after she died, you guys were playing the celebrity game, and you're like, oh, I wonder what celebrities died. Amy Winehouse, maybe.
Oh no.
So I called that one. But when I got out, I did hear about Hideki Irabu, who was a Yankee pitcher who had committed suicide. But I did not hear about Janie Lane, singer for Warrant. Now, I'm a huge 80s metal fan, and like hair metal at the time was awesome. Now is still awesome. There's always going to be a spot. Like, I love like heavy shit, but you got to love the hair metal. And the fact that nobody told me that Janie Lane died until like December. They're like, oh yeah, Janie. I'm like, wait, when did he die? I'm like, oh, he died back in August. I'm like, how did you not tell? Like, how was that like not like on the top 5 things that you tell me when I get out of the house? Like, I still have a job. My friend had the baby. Janie Lane died. Like, no, that wasn't on the list. Like the baby and the job were. I'm like, how do you not tell me that? That's huge.
That's crazy.
That was during the I want to know how the Yankees were doing, if Jeter got his 3,000th hit. And I asked production every single week because there was one guy that would ask questions I knew was a Red Sox fan. So I'm like, come on, throw me a bone. Did Jeter get his 3,000th hit? And remember, he was on the disabled list for a little while, so we didn't know if he came back. That was also the year of the football strike. Almost went into the
yeah.
So, but again, like, so we didn't know, like, is there a football season?
That is crazy.
And the other big story that summer, which we were all dying to find out, was the Casey Anthony trial. What was happening with Casey Anthony? So, but yeah, it's funny because I have a really good like time perception, like how long ago things happened. Before I was on Big Brother, those 3 months were basically like I turned off a light switch. 3 months happened, you turn it back on. But that time never came back. So like when I asked my friends, like, oh, what's your son now? 2? And they're like, no, he's 4. Like, did I really miss 2 years? Like, my perception of time is really affected. That's the one negative to come out of Big Brother. Not the social media, none of any of that, but losing my perception of time.
Hey, real quickly, if fans want to connect with you, what's your social media?
And on Twitter, it's Heavy Metal Teddy at Heavy Metal Teddy, because I'm the Heavy Metal Teddy Bear. On Instagram, I know this is a hard one to remember, but it's Bacon Guru BB13. Bacon Guru BB13. I post pictures of my daughter. I post pictures of food. I post pictures of heavy metal. And then BigBrotherNetwork.com during the season. Find out my rankings, and Sirius XM. Look up Big Brothers, and listen every Monday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, man, I did not discover that podcast until late in the season, so I'm definitely going to be tuning into that this season. Hey,
Thank
Adam, you're a lot of fun to talk to. I think it's so cool how well you connect with the fans. I appreciate you doing that. We'll have to do this again sometime.
I'm you. You're me. I'm you. Except I root for a winning team.
Fair enough, man. Adam, thanks so much, man. We'll keep in touch.
Take care, man.
All right, there is Adam Poch from Big Brother 13 and Sirius XM. Check out his work and over at BigBrotherNetwork.com. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, share the links with your friends. Let them know about it. Spread the word for the Farz Cast podcast. Next week, Jason Brown from Last Chance U on Netflix. He will be joining me on the podcast. Really excited to talk to him, so he will be joining me. Until then, have a good weekend. Stay safe. I'll talk to you guys then.
Bye.